Clive Barker is the Scouse Stephen King. Maybe he'd go up to Stephen King and go, "Hey, Stephen, calm down, lads. You don't have to make the children in it shag to get out of that magic sewer, mate." Sorry about my impression, people from Liverpool. He's perhaps a little more Marmite than King, and has a much, much worse bad book to good book ratio than Maine's finest author. When Clive is good though, he's great. In 1988, Clive Barker penned the horror novel Cabal, the story of a troubled mental patient, Boone, who is falsely led to believe by his doctor that he is a serial killer. Boone goes on the run and ends up seeking refuge in an old abandoned cemetery that just so happens to be filled with various beasts, creatures and monsters called the Nightbreed. That's the name of the game. Wow! Clive rather fancied the idea of this story as a movie, and so he decided to make it himself. And just like Maximum Overdrive, directed by the aforementioned fellow author King, it wasn't a good idea. However, having said that, unlike King, Barker had directed a genuinely good movie, again based on his own works, Hellraiser. We've all heard of Hellraiser. Look at that man with the pins in his noggin. So what went wrong? Well, number one, it wasn't as good as Hellraiser, but it wasn't terrible. According to Rotten Tomatoes, 40% of critics awarded it a positive score, with many critics praising the concepts but not Clive's directorial delivery. Another issue Nightbreed had was with the studio Morgan Creek. Breed's final edit upon release was not loved by Clive Barker, as it was heavily butchered before release, and it has taken until this year for Barker to release his favoured version, known as the Cabal Cut, which is coming out on Blu-ray. The Cabal Cut restores a lot of the lost footage, and it has been re-edited by Clive Barker himself. But suffice to say, Clive Barker was not happy with the original 1990 release. Unfortunately, Morgan Creek also botched the marketing. Thanks to Friday the 13th, Halloween and Nightmare on Elm Street, the slasher genre was very popular by the time of Nightbreed's release in 1990. Morgan Creek had edited the trailer to look like a slasher film, hiding both the Nightbreed creatures and the film's central conceit, that mankind is capable of terrible violence and that you shouldn't judge a book by its cover. In the case, of course, of the Nightbreed monsters, who are a benevolent race, largely apart from the berserkers. Ultimately, Nightbreed struggled to make back its $11 million budget, clawing just $8 million back in North America. Low budget, low target, it still failed. Poor old Clive, and poor old Ocean 2, as their scattershot licensing hit another clanger. You unfortunate Muppet Wallies, Ocean. Only this time Ocean had gone big. They'd actually committed to 3 games based on Nightbreed. Oh good lord. When the movie ultimately tanked, Ocean backed the chuff up on the 3rd game, an Ultima style RPG. But unfortunately, work was well underway on the other 2 titles to stop production. The other 2 games are Nightbreed, the interactive movie released for the Amiga, MS-DOS and Atari ST, and Nightbreed, the action game released for the aforementioned 3 formats, along with 8-bit computers, the Amstrad CPC, the Commodore 64 and the good old ZX Spectrum. The interactive movie is a mixed and varied bag, following the plot of the movie pretty closely. The interactive movie game is comprised of different levels, usually little sub-mini games, but the main part of the game is viewed through a Dungeon Master style window. It's an ambitious but not tremendously pretty game of this type. There's a car-based section where you view this little car from above and make it move about, a fighting sequence, a joystick waggling escape from a monster, and a sizable plummet down a big hole towards the end of the game. On the whole, it's an admirable go at something different, with magazine The One giving it a 75% score at the time, and it's not aged well, especially compared to similar games of the type, like It Came from the Desert. It lacks a lot in terms of replayability, and it's very much a curio from the past as opposed to a legendary movie conversion. The action game has a real feel of Shadow of the Beast to it, as Boone is pursued by the villainous Dr. Decker and his neo-Nazi Sons of the Free sect, along with some of the more feral Nightbreed creatures known as the Berserkers. In the film, Boone is turned into a Nightbreed himself, and he must find a passkey, a token that opens a pathway to Midian, as this is the alt world of the Nightbreed, which he, of course, is now one. The game suffers a little bit from its large sprawling map with locations that look very similar. You move left to right and in and out of the screen, and it really does become quite labyrinthine. But you walk around these places brawling with zombies, avoiding bombs and blasting some of the bigger berserker monsters with pistols. It's an enjoyable attempt and preferable overall to the interactive game. A range of reviews from the magazine settle down roughly in the average territory, with a few others here and there being outliers, much like the Nightbreed themselves, giving it high and very low rankings. The Nightbreed then, what a bunch of uggos. I bet they still get more swipes than me on Tinder. Okay, thanks, bye!